what is Synflow and what is contraflow?
Yeah,
Like,
because
what
people
is
ask me and I don't know, even though it's my thing. Right? Yeah.
That was the year the pod started. That was a weird year. That was a great year. That's one of my favorite years.
Yeah. Actually
Yeah, that's great.
Fuck everybody year. Just talking to these fools on the phone every week.
yeah. We should, plan another worldwide pandemic.
I'm down for another pandemic.
Yeah.
The Big Hormone Enneagram.
I'm John Lekovich, 415, Sexual Self-Pres, 458 Trifix.
I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual, 9 with 1 wing, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8 wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm a social self-preservation 9 wing 1, 963 trifix.
Like and subscribe on Apple and Spotify, and leave us a review. If you want to support the show with a donation, you can find us on Venmo at Big Hormone and paypal.me/Big Hormone. Yeah, I find it interesting how much our biology influences our thinking and feelings. I mean, it's not to say that those feelings and thoughts aren't there. It's just how it can amplify it and can put you in a hole that feels like it's difficult to get out of when your body feels like shit. Mm-hmm. And so I guess maybe as a body type, I'm overemphasizing this, but just I can manipulate to what degree I feel certain things by making my body feel a certain way.
Right. Yeah, I observe that in real time on a daily basis over here.
Someone does
Never...
some self-comforting and self-soothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if
I had a cold.
Okay.
Well, I had a cold last week, and it was just like a couple of days, but just immediately my like emotional mood just also plummets because my body feels bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you should repeat some of what you said, Emeka, about the antidepressants and mushroom stuff that you looked into, just because it follows up from our last.
Okay.
Thing. I mean, like I said before we started recording, I've noticed a significant, not 100%, but a significant improve in the depressiveness. Like in the, like I think I described. I don't know when I described it like this, but it was sort of like I was like I'm laying in a puddle of like water, and that water is like burning misery. Mm-hmm. And so I could like usually bring my attention to forward and not engage with it, but it was still in the background. And then, at various times I'd sink into awareness of that misery. But now, since that, ego death experience or whatever, and all that happened that night, I just feel a lot freer and lighter and more real and more here, and just less this like gnawing, crunching, whatever kind of like spinal feeling that I use as feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd already said this, but I looked into it after you'd made that comment about psychedelics helping with depression, because I've heard that before and I don't really know the specifics. And so it got me into this rabbit hole around like how SSRIs work, which, are antidepressants. And there's been a lot of research around LSD and psychedelics in general and their effects on brain chemistry. And so back in the day, like LSD was one of these things that was a threat to what the pharmaceutical industries were trying to develop at the time of antidepressants. And so there's this whole narrative that serotonin is like a happy hormone. And actually the opposite is true. Serotonin is a stress or a stress hormone. But SSRIs work in a sense that they upregulate a whole bunch of brain hormones, and in some ways like blunt the negative feelings you're having, but it also blunts a bunch of other stuff. But LSD was a threat back in the day, because if LSD was shown to work like other things like tobacco and weed and things like that couldn't be monetized, then it would be a threat to some of these new products that these companies. So they demonize psychedelics, but low dose psychedelics reduces serotonin, which makes you feel better. Which you know, and so something like that that's readily available, what would that do to these companies that are making a lot of money from these drugs?
Psychedelics are also a threat to whatever the big system is behind the system. It's like you see, especially with types that maybe wouldn't typically, I don't know, question the system or whatever.
Right.
You're going to see, that it's all an illusion and it's bullshit and it's about, making you just a worker bee or all of that shit.
One of the reasons, so the breath work that I do, integrative breath work, is similar to what's called holotropic breath work, which is like a more widely known practice thing. And that is done in large groups, typically with music and this kind of stuff. It's not as individual, but that experience, holotropic, is a bit more psychedelic because it's less personal and accompanied by music, and you're influenced by the emotions around you and stuff like this. But it was developed by Stanislav and Christina Grof when LSD became illegal, because initially what they were using in therapy for people was LSD and LSD therapy. So
it's bringing out your natural DMT too, right?
I don't know, but
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting connection. It sounds like they were finding ways to actually treat some mental health shit and then shut some of that shit down.
Yeah, you gotta shut it down.
Yeah, I find it really interesting, and it gets me into a big rabbit hole on. I mean, there's so many things that we take for granted that the agricultural pharmaceutical industry has pushed in order to sell products to us that aren't healthy, where they were natural foods or remedies that we had access to, but like they created a narrative so that we could get away from the things that we naturally consume that were healing, to stuff that may work. I mean, still works to some degree, but doesn't really fully heal you. It just makes sure that
you're
you keep
need
using
another
the drug.
You're going to need another drug to heal whatever that one did.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a similar sort of using a different story to distort or lead people away from whatever. Is just like it runs on every sort of level, right? Like, just, I mean, even like, I see it politically all the time, but and with like when it comes to health stuff, there's like, ivermectin is the cures COVID or whatever, which is a horse tranquilizer sort of. So there's always like there's like the central narrative, then there's alternative narratives, which are equally, if not more so, bullshit. Than So anyway, it's usually much more like simple.
Exactly, like the things that heal us generally not a whole lot of people profit from. It's like maybe it's some herb, or you go to someone who's been keeping track of some of these like mysterious herbal solutions that have been passed down from generations. Like no one's getting rich off of that. Or psychedelics, who's getting rich off of mushrooms? Right. And so these like very simple solutions, or you just need to dance, or you need to just eat better and make your body feel better, or get more sunlight. Like these aren't bankable solutions.
Right. I mean, the pharma thing is kind of like keeping people dependent and sort of trusting in doctor authorities and stuff. So it's kind of like the clergy thing, where the connection to source or whatever is outside of me and my own personal power. And that's the other threat of the whole psychedelics thing, is that it's in you and you have power. You know what I mean? And that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so a friend of mine who's been doing breathwork with me for a long time ended up having to go to the hospital. And I can't remember exactly like the whole story, but basically there's something to the effect of she's using a drug that is in a very low dose for some kind of pain thing that is typically used to counter anxiety in like much larger quantities or something like this, or maybe it's something like that. long story short, like she ended up telling the nurse like that breath work has just helped me deal with all this stress. Like it's not, I'm not taking pills to do all this stress. This is just like something else. And the nurse, I think, said something to the effect of how wanted to learn about breath work, given how destructive both all kinds of medical trauma are, as well as like the medicines and ways that are used to heal from like or treat pain or whatever are. I'm butchering the whole story, but anyway, it was just interesting from a nurse like commenting on just the negative, like it's sort of you get into some kind of trying to heal your body in some kind of medicine way, and it ends up just creating a whole bunch of layers and layers and layers, when a lot of times like a lot of diseases stem from stress and stem from just not eating well and not moving yourself, moving your body and stuff.
And imagine if there was a cure for cancer, which I think there may be several, but that just kills, and they announce it. Yeah, that's hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah. Anyway. I mean, I really appreciate like nutrition nerd people, because you have to really be an independent thinker. And I remember when the fucking vaccine came out for COVID and how much it was pushed and what came out afterwards. I think there's a lot of public distrust when people realize like, okay, this didn't help me get COVID any less. So what did it actually, or maybe it helped. It didn't prevent me from getting COVID again. And so what did it actually really accomplish, other than just line a lot of people's topic or line a lot of rich people's pockets? Stuff like that.
I got the vaccines because I was traveling to see Alexandra, and I don't really know one way or another. I think that I suspect that there's some help of the vaccines, but there's probably a whole bunch of negative consequences as well. But I think it's like something about the COVID vaccine and all the energy around it. It's just like I don't know. People either like religious about not taking it or religious about taking it in a way that's like very strange to me.
I didn't really care too much about that side of it, like the autonomy side of it. I was mainly concerned about the sort of biological underpinnings.
Sure.
So, like people who know a lot more about this kind of stuff, like what are some of the potential risks. But then again, if you're someone who does not follow conventional medicine, why would you all of a sudden at this point in time trust the very people that are essentially poisoning us? Why is now the time to put your trust in people who can't be trusted?
I have Jupiter in the 6th house. Good luck planet for health. So, and a 7 fix. So I just assumed that, everything's going to be fine. And it was. Thank you. I was right.
Annoying.
I just needed to get on that plane.
What's that?
I needed to get on that plane.
Yeah.
Go down to Florida.
I got COVID before it was cool to get COVID. I got it I got COVID like I think it was February of 2020, and it was rough. I had, my sister said I might have been like the 12th person, because at that point it was like still new at her hospital.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I wasn't, but it was very early.
Yeah.
Because I was Ubering at the time.
The top 20.
I was Ubering at the time, so like I was running into people from Europe and things like that. So I might have, but it was rough. It was bad.
I remember that. No, I don't. One of us, like, we got it nearly the same time. I don't remember who got it first, but I remember being on a call with you guys, and I just been at like House of Yes like the night before or something like this, and where I'm sure I got it. And so the next day I was like, man, like, we were talking about like, I don't know, people just starting to talk about COVID, and then on the call I started feeling kind of funny. And then the symptoms came on right after we got off the call. And it sucked. It was early.
That was when we started the pod too. That was
that
was the year the pod started. That was a weird year. That was a great year. That's one of my favorite years. Fuck everybody year. Just talking to these fools on the phone every week.
We should plan another worldwide pandemic.
I'm down for another pandemic.
Yeah.
Government sending us some cash. I'm at home just fucking around with my interests.
I love it.
It did
No
have-
phone calls, no texts.
With my interests. Yeah, I loved COVID. I loved lockdown.
Oh man.
I know a lot of people really suffered from not being able to go out, but I was finally like, everybody shut up. Stay home.
And the beautiful thing about it is that it put so many dumb relationships on pause. The one kind of relationships where people were like, oh, let's just go grab a drink, or just people just that hang out with you because they're bored. And so those are gone. And so when the world came back, those relationships didn't come back, or they tried to come back, and it's like, no, the door's locked. You're never coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so much got tested. You really found out like what friendships were friendships, what people you actually like to talk to, what people were just habit and convenient.
Right.
It was great.
It was awesome.
Yeah. A lot of relationships didn't survive. People realized they didn't like their partners.
Totally.
Sure did.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing.
Find out what you did like.
A lot of people,
Found out who
got
you
out of
do
their
like.
prison sentences. Yeah.
Found
a new prison sentence.
there was a lot of like sense that people were starting to recognize everything was bullshit, and like starting to kind of like people were starting to like explore hobbies and interests and like get to know themselves in different ways. I feel like that really some of that has lasted, and then some of that just really got forgotten. But I mean, the sense that people were like, I just remember like when I was doing like working with clients around then, people just like having to live with themselves when they're not thinking about building the progress of their career or something like that. Like you're just,
oh God, the
fucking
building. Finally, all that shut down. It was like, stop building, just shut up about your ambitions.
And I feel like something shifted because of that. I mean, to a certain degree, I feel like things have been different since then. Like the way people, because people just now realize the cost of everything on their own personal piece. Like that sort of baseline of becoming okay with just your baseline self. I feel like that has changed the temperature of the way people approach everything, even just like work. People were working from home or working remotely, and people were like, fuck offices, fuck having to go back, and like I'm getting more stuff done at home. So companies that try to bring people back into the office, and it's like that's not happening. People realizing these companies are bullshit, or even just the way people approach dating. It's gotten more polarized, but also people are just more willing to forego the whole thing and say, I'm not playing the game as much as before.
Stay at home
it's
with
been
their
interesting.
interests.
Yes. Their interests.
I don't know why that wording was so like chocolate.
It's very five-fixed.
Fuck around with my interests. Yeah, it's so five-fixed. That's exactly what it is.
Slightly autistic.
God, that is totally, that's exactly what it is. Dive into my weird niche. Oh, I love it.
It does feel different. I don't know if just paying attention to the way people talk online about their lives and what they're doing. It seems like people are just, over it in a certain sense because of what happened with the pandemic.
Yeah, I think too, there is sort of like a kind of like collective depression, because it has revealed how bullshit so much that our world was structured around is, and like I feel like there's a greater sense that everything is fraudulent, like career, even those relationships, like people have
more.
Politicians more, like I mean, every narrative, right? Like of just who are the good guys and bad guys, and we have to invade this country, and all those kind of things, like that people just used to just buy into.
Go Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Full Texas
No.
here. Old white guy from Texas right here.
God.
Right. Yeah.
I'm already expecting a second term. I'm not even paying attention to
yeah.
it anymore.
Yeah, he's going to be elected. I think he will.
I think he's going to be elected and then shot.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Again.
Oh.
And then JD Vance is going to be our president.
Oh, no, God. You see Elon Musk on stage with
Oh
Trump?
my God. There's so many memes from that.
That is the most embarrassing, like, cringy thing ever. Like, you can just... He radiates both kind of like a childish autistic thing and pure insecurity. That picture where he's jumping and he's just like...
Right. Man, he's one of the dorkiest, like, dorkiest billionaires who wants attention for being... He wants to be cool so bad.
Yeah.
Man. Like the biggest nerd who's made a gajillion dollars. And he's just like pumping out babies because he thinks it's cool to pump out babies and just make as many babies as possible.
And of course, as a 7, he loves that everyone thinks he's an absolute stellar genius.
Well, he blew that. I think. I think people did when
that.
they weren't exposed to him much, and now that they see he's like a Twitter fuck up, and he's all over the place, and he's like, he just is making an asshole of himself all over the place.
What are his zones, you think?
For Self-Pres, we have it.
Social persona.
Social, sexual. I mean, 2-1.
Self-Pres is 2-1. That's the only zone that we've done.
Like
for
the
him.
biggest fuck up ever in Self-Pres.
Okay.
Like Alexandra is.
Test, like, go to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk any Enneagram thing for the episode, or?
Let's see. Is there anything the autonomy stuff? Do you?
I could do the autonomy thing. We can explore the thing related, David, to the Synflow, contraflow, maybe, if that's interesting to you.
Yeah. What was it? I don't remember what that is. I mean, what the.
So, all right. So basically, I was.
Oh yeah.
I have these, like, in my book, these autonomy conflicts, and. Basically, I was seeing how they may account for or explain synthflow and contraflow, and I was trying to understand the zones and these potential instinctual cycles through the lens of the autonomy conflicts. And there's still maybe something there, but what jumped out to me was, how they could account for synthflow and contraflow. And so, in my book, I talk about how. Basically, each instinct is a conflict between being dependent on external resources to regulate yourself and being confident in your own capacity and selfhood to acquire those instinctual resources. So there's a bit of a polarity or a back and forth. So, on one hand, let me back up. So that means there's 3 basic autonomy conflicts that underlie the personality, right? Like, we're all dealing with these different conflicts in different degrees depending on our stacking. Like, in our dominant instinct, that's the conflict that has the most juice for us. And I think that there's stuff to unpack eventually that would account for maybe like why an instinct becomes dominant, middle, or blind based on these autonomy conflicts. But because they happen, they like constellate at different developmental stages in infancy. But basically, it's like I have this spectrum of dependency and capacity, like dependency on one side and capacity on the other. So dependency is like in self-pres, like I need to, take care of myself. I need to make money. I need to get food. There's a recognizing that you need the resource. And at the same time, in order to confidently move toward getting that resource, you need to know that you have the capacity to do so. You need to have faith in yourself, confidence in yourself. So it's kind of like there's the basic need, but then there's sort of the egoic part. I don't mean egoic like a big ego. I just mean like your experience of yourself in relation to your instinctual needs.
Which is kind of like SPSO versus SPSX in a way. Like
right, exactly.
SPSX is the SX is attunement to your own capacity in a certain way, or I don't know, life force?
Yeah, the way I was thinking about it was the Synflow stacking, so self-pres, social, sexual, self-pres, and social sexual are more on this spectrum or this end of the polarity that's the dependency end, meaning that they're more aware of their needing to get their instinctual resources.
So
And
that's why it's like that more cooperative kind of theme.
yeah, it's more like with social sexual versus social self-pres, like social sexual kind of like can almost make a fool of themselves trying to be in the social interaction so much. They're going after the social interaction and doing whatever they got to do it in this sort of bubbly way where it can undermine the dignity of social self-pres, where on that capacity end of the spectrum, it's like they are, this is just, my theory or whatever, but it's more about regarding themselves as a acceptable and to them self-acceptable social object.
Right.
Like what I see with social self-pres versus social sexual when they're under stress is that social self-pres will kind of like withdraw to a degree and like sort of do this sort of self-consolidation about, do I feel good about myself? Do I see myself the way I want to be seen? Do I feel like I could be regarded well as a social object? It's like a self-evaluation of themselves as a social figure or person or agent, versus social sexual will just like, crash out on connection and going here and and it's sort of like they're not stepping back and going, who am I as a social being?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with sexual, where sexual self-pres is more about getting the hook, getting the object, getting the meats, getting it, and what's going to get it, and am I going to get it, and do I have the muscles, the talent, the whatever to get it? Whereas sexual social is more about stepping back and regarding themselves as a sexual object and sexual being. Sexual object is maybe too similar to the word objectification.
Right.
Because sexual self-pres is certainly objectifying themselves, but it's like, am I the sexual being, the sexual zeitgeist, or something like that? Yeah, the sexual energy.
Sexual beacon.
Broadcast.
Beacon. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, so that's also on the capacity side, or the capacity, the egoic part is like, and what I'll see that flips out sexual socials, right? Like after we did the social or self-pres blind roast, is any sense of undermining themselves as the sexual beacon, right? Like maybe
putting a pin in that balloon.
Yeah, exactly. Like where like I would imagine like sexual self-pres can obviously get very hurt when they're not whatever, but it's usually like, oh, if you don't. Typically, I will see sexual self-pres if somebody does not find them attractive, they'll be like, oh, that's their problem. They're just not into my flavor. I gotta up my flavor somewhere else, And so back to self-pres. Self-pres socials are the ones like going to like build a house and like do the chickens and farm and whatever, raise and build and construct and live in that way. Whereas self-pres sexual is more like being the object,
sensual,
sensual object that is indulging and enjoying in these
and that others want. Right?
Yeah. It's.
I mean,
okay, David.
A little too far, David.
Oh, right. Oops. That was some zone stem 2-3 sexual.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That others want.
Very hot. I'm
it's desired by many.
Yeah.
You can't say it enough, Well, and I'm social is 1 2, which is like the sexual social in social.
Yes.
See, so I'm a real project.
Here I am.
Contra.
Yeah.
Contra boy.
But I thought that kind of made
good.
some sense, and it was cool that like something I've already worked on and you've already worked on like independently, seeing it like, because I wrote that like 3 or 4 years ago, and
that's cool.
You've done Synflow, contraflow since forever, So anyway, just to kind of look at it and be like, oh, I think this gives some. I think they fill each other out of what they're doing. Because like I was asking some folks like, you know, as like a thinking out loud, I was like asking Alexandra like, what is Synflow and what is contraflow?
Yeah,
like,
because people ask me and I don't know, even though it's my thing, right? Yeah.
God, 7
It exists.
So
it's out there,
weird.
but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And by the way, so it's been a slow conversion for you, John, and this is also getting to the other conversion you need to have, which is the overlaps thing. Like you were just talking about sexual self-pres, which I overlap with type 4, and you were saying, I'm going to do more of my flavor.
Right.
It's like more
cool.
my specific individuality. And then sexual social is like you popped the balloon of their pride type 2. That's the overlap for sexual social. I'm the representative of love and romance.
Right.
And desire, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. As I'm writing down these, I mean, self-pres social with 8, like I'm just gonna go get it, you know, like, yeah, and
that's right. And then SPSX is 5. Like I'm going into my internal map or whatever interior, and I've got like what is it? Asexual reproduction in my mind or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I was having the mushroom trip, one of the things Emeka and I were talking a lot about was Geiger. And his art and the impact it had, and like, you know, it is so sexual, but it's so also partnerless in a certain way.
Yeah,
there you
like the sort of erotic mechanic machines will be like sort of having sex with themselves.
Yeah,
and like it's not like my art has a lot of like a sexual undertone or whatever, I think, but it's like very like the sexual object focused. You know, like when you saw that painting of Alexandra that I have in my room, and you were like, "Oh, that's a really sexual self-pres painting." Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, like, you know, it's like here's the sexual object, here she is.
Yeah.
Whereas like Geiger's has that. You know, I don't know if he's sexual self-pres or self-pres sexual,
I
but
think he's sexual self-pres, but it's the 5 that's SPSX.
Yeah, but it's just like it's like self-curled
curling into self. There it is.
You know, he's having sex with his own, like,
that's it.
Something, a polarity that is created in his own inner space.
Yeah.
So anyway, interesting.
Yeah, the Synflow versus Contra thing showing up in the zone stems has been really interesting, and even just to see, I think I got it before, but I'm getting it even more just seeing how it's showing up in people's zone stems, and how aside from the stackings themselves, but like there is I've got my hands on the dynamic of that instinct, and I'm outside of it versus I'm in it and I'm trying to exchange 1-to-1. Yeah, that's something I can actually feel, like even just for sexual, like 2-3 versus 3-2 is pretty big, like a very big,
it's big, yeah,
very
totally
big sort of in terms of a vibe, or energetically what
just
that
the
feels
same
like.
way SPSO versus SOSP is.
One of the things we were talking about before we got on this call was like, well, you know, what are the list of things we could potentially talk about, and we should get back into the Wing series, but I mean,
what was the last one we did? I think the next
3.
one we need to do is 3. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, we did have the 3 episode with Nancy, and then Josh and did their call. So I mean, we could do another 3 one since it's got so much meat in it, but we could also move on to 4-wing.
Yeah, if there's more, we could try it out and see if there's any juice there. But yeah, I guess we have 4, 5, 6, and 7 left.
The attachment to disconnect piece in 3 is really interesting and kind of subtle. You know, like I have a new 3 client, and I was like feeling it in her, but it was kind of hard to like pinpoint. It's not as obvious as like, you know, a 6 will just freak out, or a 9 will just blow up every now and then. But like a 3 is weird. It's like attachment to disconnect and heart center. It's like a weird emotional chess that you don't know you're playing.
And assertive too, yeah.
Because it's competency also, you know?
Yeah, I think the assertive piece comes in too, where it's like, it's coming at you, but it's also like looking for things that it needs to keep doing in like an active way. You know, like where 3-wing 2 is like rejecting the gaze that they're not wanting to get. I think there's a way that 3 wing 4, in order to keep the like engine going, is actually looking for things that confirm they're not worthy of something in order to keep the engine moving towards being worthy of something.
Oh, that's,
you know, so it works to the same effect, because
that's interesting. Damn,
yeah,
nice,
where
baby.
I like won't see the good stuff. I'll just fixate on the bad stuff in order to be like, I need to do more. I need to do more.
That, you nailed it. I mean, totally. Yeah, like this thing with us is like, I'll be like, everything's great and I love you and blah blah blah. I'm like, you're hot, and then
be like,
she's like,
oh my god, he hates me.
oh no, I need to,
just like,
I need to lose 2 pounds.
The worst.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way. Yeah, with 3-2, there it's kind of always obscuring what the target is in a way, so that you can keep getting affirmed. Because once you kind of specify what you want, then it's easy to keep score.
And it's also the standard thing of just like, if you don't know yourself, if you don't like have a defined sense of identity, then like you don't really know what you're looking to be affirmed for. So,
and that
something like that
thing you added, Emeka, about frustration, right? Like just having a frustration wing gives you a little bit more of a concrete thing to work with.
Yeah.
Whereas with a rejection wing, attachment to disconnect with a rejection wing is like, it's never gonna quite do it here.
Yeah, that Lewis Josh episode really upset some people. That was great.
I know. Yeah, people had a weird reaction to that.
That was.
I guess we did.
How did it upset them?
Well, I think people just took a lot of value judgments on both sides, really.
Yeah.
For 3-2 and 3-4, and there was a lot of chatter around it, and some people took it to mean like, oh, you know, having 3 wing 2 fix was a bad thing, and then other people who had 3 wing 4 were like, I'm not cold, I'm not.
Yeah, I heard a lot of that.
Like, that was a weird one.
Well, cry about it. I don't know. I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was,
it was
at
great.
the very least, like demonstrative of the difference between the two of them, because it was just like so loud.
No, that's like what one of the things that this podcast is for.
Yeah.
You know. All right. Well, I need to get going, but
all right.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Okay.
See y'all later.
Is it? It's over.
All right. All right. Bye, guys. Let's talk about 4. Let's just do 4 next time. Let's not do 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go right into the wings.
Cool.
We do both.
Sounds good.
Okay. I mean, whatever.
Okay. All right. See you guys.
All right, y'all.
All right.
All right.
Bye, guys.